Last year was the first year that I decided to use a word of the year in order to determine what my goals for the year were going to be, and it was actually really successful as an experiment. I ended up making 2 sets of goals. One was mindset goals, and the idea was to change how my mindset works in a lot of different ways. I just wanted to prioritize quality over quantity when it came to my writing, when it came to buying items, and how I was dealing with my finances when it came to buying books and reading books. And also when it came to producing content for social media. And then the other set of goals that went hand in hand with the mindset ones were tangible goals. So I wanted to also have some things I could keep track of. So I could tick off every single time at the end of a quarter and say, yes, I have read this many books. Yes, I have gotten rid of these clothes, etc. My word of the year last year was lagom, which I am probably mispronouncing, and is a Swedish word that sort of express the idea of little but well. Quality over quantity. This year I have a brand new word of the year, and I have set up my Notion page, and we're going to plan my 2026 goals together in Notion. So as you can see, I've set up a 2026 goals page, and my word of the year is cultivate. The definition I've taken is from the Oxford Dictionary, and it says to take up or develop an activity, habit, interest, etc., especially for the purpose of self-improvement. And then I've put some other words underneath it that represent what I mean: to thrive, prosper, grow, to nurture, to take care of, to enrich. And then the idea of having good soil, good climate, a healthy environment that is necessary to cultivate anything. I also found this little illustration on Pinterest that is designed by Julia Kessner Designs. I've put the little link down below for myself to remember, but essentially this says grow at your own pace and shows little plants in a greenhouse, and I really liked that it was so green and beautiful and fit the design of this page very well. You can also see that I've prepared several columns, my first one being mindset goals and my second one being tangible goals. And then in each column I have writing, content creation, books, and financial. Last year I had a category for clothes, but I definitely have fixed my overconsumption in the clothing department, so I don't think I need to put that back in there. And last year I also had social media instead of content creation, but thinking about it, YouTube and TikTok, which are the 2 main ones I use, don't really fit into the social media category that much. They're not so much about being social, they're more about creating content for me. So that's what I've decided to name it this year. So why did I pick cultivate as a word? I feel like 2025 was the year that I really fixed a lot of things that I needed to fix in my mindset in general. And it was the year that I almost prepared the soil to then cultivate better habits and more skills. And so that's why this feels like a natural continuation after 2025 for my word of the year of 2026 to be cultivate. When it comes to my writing, I really want to be able to cultivate the books and ideas that I already have instead of spreading myself too thin, which I do have a tendency to do. I have a constant flow of new ideas and I love to jump from one to the next, but I really would love to be able to finish and complete in their entirety more than one book and get to the point of querying or publishing my first book at some point. Guys, goal setting when you're ill is so difficult. I'm gonna say grow the ideas already I have, work on the books I've written. I have multiple first drafts and I really would love to take them to the next stage. Instead of writing another first draft, it's highly possible I will be craving writing a new first draft in 2026. I'm not going to stop myself if that happens, but I do have some ideas that already exist in order to do that. So if I do end up writing another first draft, I'd like for it to be, for instance, Project Snowstorm, which I have developed the idea a lot for that one. Or book 2 in the Space Princess series, which I already have developed ideas for as well. Things like that. So I don't want to jump into something brand new. I would very much like to cultivate what I already have planted in terms of seeds. So in terms of tangible goals for this, my first one is that I want to focus on cultivating a book that I'm currently loving for myself, which is Rules of Survival. I think really deserves its moment next year, and I would love to be able to bring it to the next steps so that I can actually query that one. That would be great. Might not happen in 2026, but I definitely want to get it to a couple of drafts over rather than just draft 0, draft 1. And then based on that, I would like to be able to give it to critique partners. I'm also craving working on An Office for Monsters, and I would love to go to the editing stage as well for this one. So I'm gonna tentatively say revise An Office for Monsters, but it could end up being something else. It's just currently what I'm thinking of. And then finally, I have been re-outlining the ending of Knights of Death. It would be great if I could finish the first draft of that one. I'm not gonna put more goals than this currently in my writing goals because I don't know where the year is gonna take me. Last year I feel like I was over ambitious about the amount of different drafts I could work on. So even though I would love to be able to work on Project Snowstorm, I would love to be able to work on Space Princess. I'm not gonna put them down in there, but they're in the back of my mind. They still exist. I would like to work on them at some point. When it comes to content creation, I'd like to be able to plan things more and to work on series, because I've really enjoyed working on the series for Rules of Survival and making those vlogs of me writing the first draft, and I'd love to continue doing these into 2026 and do the revision drafts, the revision vlogs. That'd be great. So I think I'm just gonna put work on series for YouTube. Another one that I have in mind is I'd love to do more Notion videos, especially world building. So initially intangible goals, I'm gonna put these 2 in there, which is continue the vlogs for Rules of Survival, the revision vlogs, and make a Notion for Writers series. And then another goal that I have that sort of works within this cultivating idea as well is that I'd love to work more on sort of educational content, I guess, just making videos that teach other people what I've managed to learn, because I've got the privilege of having found so much great advice, so many great tips, read so many great craft books, and I'd love to pass on any information that I've managed to find about how to become a better writer. It's helped me greatly, especially I feel like in the last couple of years, and I would love to make more how-to videos, tips videos, things that I've learned, you know, how to outline the way that I do, how to use Notion the way that I do. It might not be of interest to everyone, but if it is, that would be fantastic. More teaching content, I'm gonna say. Make how-tos, tips videos for writers, which kind of works with the Notion for Writer series as well. It sort of works with that mindset goal as well. And then I also want to plan out content in advance in order to publish more. So in general, I've noticed that if I have a tough time in my day-to-day life, in other areas of my life, then I clearly just completely zone out of creating any content, like for YouTube or even TikTok. It doesn't really matter which one I'm doing it for. It's just that I take a proper break, and that's not great for the algorithm. Obviously, they don't like that. The different algorithm, they hate that. I'd love to have more pre-created content that I can publish when I'm having a hard time and when I just can't film anything and it's just there, it already exists, I can publish it, I can hit the button. So I'd love to do that a little bit more. So I'm just gonna put plan out videos for Q1 and Q2, Q3 and Q4. There we go. The next section is books and in general reading. It's also got to do with my book buying habits, which I feel like I've already again planted the seeds last year and managed to be better at not buying books that I don't really want to read and that I'm just being influenced by people or by the cover, and buying more books that I generally want to read within the same year if possible. I've done that more in 2025. I'd like to continue doing that. So cultivate better book buying habits. Buy books I intend to read within the same year. And I kind of also want to do a continuation of what I was doing last year when it came to reading more books that were genuine conversation openers and a little bit more thought out rather than solely rereads, which are easy for me, or things that are a little bit more Kindle Unlimited vibes, which again are very easy reads. And that's fine. I love both. I just also want to have books that I can talk about with other people and that are making me think more. Books that feel a little bit like they fit into a personal curriculum. It can be non-fiction, but it can also be fiction that I just think is of really high quality. So read more high quality books. As a separate goal, select more non-fiction books to learn things on new topics, which I've done a little bit in 2025 and I'd like to continue that trend. Again, goes a little bit with that idea of self-improvement that goes within the cultivate word. Tangible goals for this, I'm gonna put the same goal that I had last year, which is read 25 books that are not rereads or KU. And it doesn't actually matter how many books in total I read at the end of the year. The ones that matter in this goal are just the 25 books that are not part of that reread or KU vibe. That should be a second goal because my first one was more about book buying habits, and for that I'm gonna put as well the same goal I had in 2025 because I feel like that was a really good goal, is limit myself to 12 new unread books by end of year. I formulated it slightly differently than I did last year because last year all I said was I could only buy 12 new books throughout the year, so one per month. But what ended up happening is I wasn't entirely sure which ones I had already read. I knew I bought perhaps more, but I'd read them throughout the year and I was like, that's kind of the point of this, so I'm okay with this. And I think I had in total 10 new books unread by the end of the year. Less so because I think I read 2 of those with a friend. Okay, so I ended up with 9 books that were new, that I had not read and that remained on my shelves for 2026. And I think that's what I want to set as a limit again for this year. It's not so much buy only 12 books throughout the entire year, but it's more so by the end of the year, I should only have 12 new books in total that I've not read yet during the year, so that I can still buy more, but I have to read them throughout the same year. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And then a tangible goal linked to more non-fiction books to learn things on new topics. I think I'm gonna read 4 non-fiction books. I think I'll end up with more than that, but that's 1 per quarter. So I feel like that's a good number. My financial goals for the year, again, I feel like I really planted good seeds and prepared the soil nicely in 2025, and that I've really improved my mindset about my finances and how I deal with finances. So I'd love to continue that and cultivate more of that. So as a mindset, I'm gonna continue doing low buy, especially with clothes. And if I look at my financial audit between 2025 and 2024, in 2025, I spent about £300 less per month on average than I did in 2024. So that's a huge improvement. And I know it's not all clothes, but a lot of that was clothes. Some of it was also that we brought down some of our bills because we didn't need as much puppy daycare and things like that for Edgar as he was growing. Some of it was also we brought down our mortgage a little bit, so it was a little bit less expensive. There were a few things, like I didn't have to go to an office like I used to once a week, so less cost on transport. So all of it was pure luck, but some of it was also just me buying less stupid clothes that I don't need. And I also want to continue saving for emergencies and build up a fund and continue investing. So essentially there's a lot of continuing what I've been doing and just build up on it. In terms of tangible goals, it's pretty easy to translate. I think I'd like to summarize what I did in 2025 into this year as a goal, which is buy new clothes only. I'm gonna put it down to 4 months in the year. So last year I think I managed to buy new clothes only for 6 months in the year, which was pretty good instead of every single month. This year I'm gonna say only 4 months, but I can't really predict which month this will be. I think I'm gonna need to buy a bridesmaid's dress for my best friend's wedding, for instance, and that will probably involve some other clothing items like new shoes, etc. And if I go on holiday, that's usually when I tend to look at what I own in terms of holiday clothing, and I decide if I want to buy new things. And then usually around autumn winter I love a little bit of a refresh for my wardrobe. So I think if I give myself 4 months in the year where it's okay to buy new clothes. By the way, this does not include basics that I need. Say I run out of bras, I'm allowed to buy a new one. Say I run out of PJs, I'm allowed to buy a new one. But more like frivolous type of spending. I'm just giving myself less time to spend on those. But it also means that I have to think through what I'm gonna buy before buying it. When it comes to saving money, I have 2 specific goals. One is get to save 3k into my emergency fund. So I'm currently building my emergency fund to be for 3-month expenses, and that's just essential expenses, and that's about 2,000 that I would really need, and that also includes potentially 150 in there that I don't really need, but 2,000 on average is what I think I would need, and I'm currently halfway through, so I'd like to build the other half, which is 3,000, and I think it's absolutely doable within the year. And then the other thing I'd like to do is to continue investing to build up to 10k in my investments. That'd be great. Last year my goal was 5k and I got there. I didn't start from scratch, there was a start there, but I managed to get to 5k, and I'd love to get to 10k this year. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm still gonna put it up as a goal. For that purpose, last year one of my sub goals was to save 200 quid every month in my Vanguard. This year I don't need to put that goal in because it's now become a regular standing order, so I don't actually have to actively go and do it. And that's it. It's not a huge list of goals. It's mostly building up on things that I've been doing last year, but that's the whole idea behind the word cultivate, is to try and continue building up on the habits that I started creating in 2025, because I'm very proud of myself for what I did achieve in 2025. So 2026 feels like a nice continuation, hopefully. And since one of my goals is going to be making more videos, especially a series on Notion for writers, if you enjoyed watching me doing this on Notion, definitely hit that subscribe button because I'm planning on making these videos. And on that note, I will see you guys in the next one.